Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Today we're going GNOME for the holidays, and we are using some metal tags that I got from the Dollar Tree to create some ornaments. So I bought these last year. I saw them at Dollar Tree. I thought, gee, I could use these. I didn't use them. I bought more and they still stood in my stash. I brought them out numerous times. I wanted to use them and show off the galvanized steel. I didn't want to just cover them up with a napkin or a gel print. And so they stayed in my stash until today. And I finally got an idea. I'm going to use some gel prints, and I'm selecting some vivid, bright gel prints. Nothing muted here. I want that bright pop of color next to the galvanized steel metal. So I'm going to leave parts of the galvanized metal, and then I'm going to have these bright bursts of colors. And I just made a tracer for my gnome. This is just a random shape. You could just freehand it on the gel prints, but I like having something to guide me along the way, so it's not so willy-nilly, but you could just freehand it. So there we see some of that bright color against that galvanized steel. I'm liking that look. So I'm just gonna flip through my gel prints and pick out some more bright colored ones. And I've got 4 here, and I've got a couple others. Now these are wooden coasters that I've drilled a hole in and turning into ornaments. On the one side, I've put some modeling paste through a stencil. I'll link the video where I show that, but I had a couple of these extras, so I'm making somewhat of an adaptation to fit that round shape to give you options. So once I've cut out the basic gnome outline, I am just gluing this down with fluid matte medium. Now, one of the questions I had when I was gluing on that metal tag was, how is that going to impact the metal tag? Is it going to oxidize or discolor it? And here I'm overlapping it, putting it on, and I just found that I take a damp rag and I wiped it off and everything worked perfectly. So no fear about that. So I'm just going and gluing it down. Now, because the metal is non-porous, it takes a bit longer to dry. And if you use a heat tool, FYI, the metal gets hot. So you're going to want to allow more time to dry and exercise caution if you are using that heat tool. So then I am cutting off the excess using my emery board. Now the gel prints are a little bit thicker than a napkin or tissue paper, so it takes a little bit longer. So you could opt to use the emery board like I'm doing here, or as an option, just flip it over and use your scissors. Get as close as possible. Regardless of which way you choose to do this, you're going to want to make sure that everything is perfectly adhered down before you move on to the next step. So I like using templates, as I said. So I've kind of made a beard template. Now this is just rough. Now again, you can just use, this is a white Stabilo all pencil or watercolor pencil, and just roughly draw in the beard shape. Now you can add some variation here. You can make the hat smaller, so more of his clothing is showing below. You can move it up and down, and you'll see variations in the finished product at the end where you have that. So I can vary it, smaller hat, larger hat. And so even though all of these I'm doing the same, they all look very individual. But I do like to have kind of something to go with. So that's why I'm not skipping this step here. So I'm just going to do that on all of them. Now when I do multiple makes for a craft fair or for gifts, I like to do it assembly line. So here I am taking my angle brush and I'm painting in the beard. I'm getting a base coat of white acrylic paint for the beard. Now, because it really doesn't matter what the shape or size of that beard is, everyone can be different. There's a whole lot of freedom here. You don't have to be so terribly exacting. So I do put a couple coats, and don't get overly worried about the fact that it isn't completely opaque, because we are going to do more painting over top of this to make it appear more like a beard and less flat. We're also going to add some shadows in a future step. So when you do things assembly line, you save cleaning time. And now I decided I'm going to edge it. I wasn't sure again how this was going to show up and if it was going to stay adhered to the metal tag, but surprise, surprise, it did. So I'm framing it as I've done everything else, and that just really, I think, improves it. But of course I'd say that. I'm a big advocate of always edging the page or the canvas. So this substrate, no different. Now, if you wanted to paint the background of the tags, then there's no need to go metal. In fact, I didn't like the effect of painting on the metal, and that kind of defeats the purpose of why would you buy the galvanized metal. Now, these wood rounds, I had painted white, and I was going to keep them white, but I decided that I needed to colorize them. So if I was doing this again, I would have painted the background first and then have glued on the gnome shape. And once again, you know, I'll make the mistake so you don't have to. But this goes to show, I mean, you can do multiple ways. It's never too late. Sometimes it's a little more difficult. Here I'm mixing light blue permanent with bright aqua and getting that mottled look, using some saran wrap to kind of add a little bit of texture there. As I said, this wood round, this is a wooden coaster that I got from Amazon. I got 100 for $25 Canadian, which was a great, great price. So now I'm adding, you know, some of those gel prints that I cut. If you want to add details to them, you can stamp or stencil any kind of details that you want. Now, if you don't have gel prints, you could just take a color, paint it, stamp on it, and then cut it out and make it specific for this project. Having that gel print or collage papers on hand just makes the process easier. And that's why I go through a gel print session, they stay in my stash, and then I can use them. So I'm grabbing out some texture stamps and I'm just adding some stamping to that background for the wood rounds. Now, if you opted to paint the metal tag, I would use a foam pouncer, not a brush. You'll get better coverage. But if you're going to do that, then just get a wooden tag or a paper tag. You don't need to go metal. Now, I intend all of these to be Christmas ornaments, but they could be like a gift tag that turns into a gift ornament. So nothing's wasted. And here I'm stenciling with this dot stencil from the Crafter's Workshop. Using the stencil as opposed to the dot stamp you see on the bottom right hand corner allows me to be more precise in positioning and makes it a little easier since I'm doing it after the fact. And here I'm just going to edge these wood rounds as well. At the end of the video, I'm going to show how I colorize the texturized size of this. So be sure to stay right to the end and then vote for which gnome is your favorite. So I've skipped some steps here. You can see I've moved ahead, and I'm going to show how to shade and paint the beard in later. But here I'm taking this star stencil from the Crafters Workshop and using champagne gold stencil butter and stenciling one star to the tip of his hat. Just adding that little bit of texture, that little bit of bling. And I'm going, again, I'm doing all of them because then I can just wash my stencil once. And I'm just going to let that dry without me messing it up. Sometimes I like to push and hurry along the process, and I end up making a mess for myself. So I caution you against that. So here's the steps when you are shading. So you're going to, after you do the base coat of white on the beard, draw in the nose. And again, this is a way to personalize. Every gnome is going to look slightly different. You can make it round, you can make it more oval, whatever. And then you are going to do some shading using your angle brush. You're going to shade around the hat, the clothing, around the beard, and on the beard, as you see me doing here. And I'm going to show you a couple of the tags. Now, I apologize. In the light, because of the galvanized metal, you're getting that glare. I wasn't aware of that when I was filming, how the galvanized metal was distorting the light. So I tried to find the best quality footage I could. So here I'm going around, and I'm basically putting in the low lights of the beard as well as shading his clothing at this point. And then I'm just putting some darks all around the beard. Now don't worry too much about it at this stage if it looks like a hot mess, because we are going to use our liner brush and white paint now to make it look more hair-like and beard on top. But these low lights right now are easiest to apply at this stage of this. If you're looking for sentiments, gnome related sentiments, please go to NINNYSNAPKINS.com. There's a link in the description box. You hit the arrow that says more. And I have Oh Gnome You Didn't sentiment pack, which you may want to use. I also have the Gnome Book digital kit, where you get some digital gel prints and digital templates where you can create a gnome themed book that's quite original. So you might want to go and check either of those things out. The gnome kit, if you've got someone in your family that loves gnomes, that would make a perfect Christmas gift for them. And then they can create at their own leisure using the all digital kit. So here I'm taking my liner brush. I've got thinned white acrylic paint, and I am just making some wispy curls, going past onto the galvanized metal part, going onto, outside of the outline of the beard. And remember when at the beginning I said that is just a basic outline to give you the general shape? Well, here you're just adding it, and every gnome beard is different, and you can individualize them. And I just go all back and forth, and sometimes I'm using a little bit of gray in there, even though I did find that putting that shading first really solves that problem. I painted the nose a flesh color, and now I'm just adding a little pink to it and a little tweak of white. Then I grab my wooden blocks and I'm just stamping some simple words. I've stamped holly jolly, believe, merry, peace. I even on the peace one I stamped in color, and it shows up on the galvanized metal. Just be sure to clean your stamps after you've stamped with acrylic paint. So when these are hanging on the tree, you're going to get that shimmer and that shine from the galvanized metal. So So let's do this one again. We draw in the nose shape, and then we're doing all the shading on the hat, on the clothing, around the beard, and on the beard. And we're shading around the nose at this time as well. Then we're going to paint the nose, shade it a little bit more pink so it looks like he's been outside. And I've done the same process with all the tags and the wood rounds. I'm just not showing you all the video from that. And here I'm using thinned white acrylic paint and just making it look a little bit more hairy, going over the edge. I'm not stopping at the end of the body. I'm overlapping, going onto the tag, onto the wood round, and making it look a little wispy. This really individualizes and personalizes each of the gnomes. There is no right or wrong, just do what looks good and have fun. If I think I'm done, I just set it aside, let it dry, work on another one, then go back to it, add a little bit more, build up the stringiness. Now I'm using my fine line applicator to put eyes in, although you could omit the eyes if that is what you want. Then I did some faux stitching around the round ones in black. And I did it faux stitching with gold on the metal. You can't really see it right now with the glare that's going on, but in the final tags in real life, it does add something. And then I'm splattering all of the items, all of the makes today with gold paint. Which one do you like the best? The joy, the hope, the believe gnome? Which one? Let me know in the comment section. There's close-ups at the end, so don't feel you gotta rush right now. So here I'm going to colorize the back. Now there's texture. Now that's just modeling paste that I put through a TCW stencil, and I will link that video. I'm putting a solid color down here, and I'm matching it to whatever the gnome clothing is on the front. This one was purple, the other one was pink, and I'm adding a little pink in here for a little variation. Being careful not to get color on the front. I'm going to let this part dry, and then I'm coming in with a darker color to bring out the texture. This is the back side of the ornament, but you know, when it's on the tree, if it happens to turn a certain way, it's going to show. So I like putting in those extra details, especially if I'm making it as a craft store make. But what I would do is just put all the modeling paste on a whole bunch of rounds and then have them at the ready so they're perfectly dry and I can just proceed. Here I'm shading on gold to give it some bling. Just adds a little bit of shine so it looks like a Christmas tree ornament, a round ornament. Easy peasy. And then I'm just edging them with that black. And this is just a makeup sponge that I get at Dollar Tree or Dollarama. Adding the paint at the end also seals the wood. So now I am giving it a coat of Minwax polyacrylic varnish. I wasn't sure about putting it on the metal tag if it would peel off, but it seems to be okay. Now I'm taping it down because I'm not going to varnish the blank side. I'm going to leave that side blank, although you could do it double-sided if you wished. And I'm just going to give this a coat of this varnish. And like I said, it's dried. It seems to have adhered perfectly well. It's protecting the paint from getting scratched. And on the tags, I'm opting to keep the other side blank. I could take a coordinating gel print and just glue it all on that other side if I wanted, or texturize it if that's what I wanted to do. I just opted to do less. Now I could put the jute back on the tags. I could use some gold ribbon. I think I'm going to use these colors. I've got this hemp cord that I was gifted. The colors seem to work, so I'm just going to tie those on, but you won't see that in the picture because, well, it's sitting there and drying. So I hope you enjoyed creating with me today. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, share it with your creative friends. Until next time, go get creative.